Welcome to the Digital Nomad Cafe podcast, the show where we discuss what it takes to create a sustainable long-term online business in today's fast-moving environment. We talk with industry experts and freelancers alike to find out what it takes to build and manage a location-independent business.
Hello and welcome back to the Digital Nomad Cafe podcast. If this is your first time listening, this is a show where we have honest and transparent conversations around building and managing an online business, freelancing and a remote work lifestyle. New episodes are available with your favourite podcast player through iTunes, Stitcher and Spotify, or you can sign up at digitalnomadcafe.com to be notified when a new show is released. On today's episode, I'm talking with Katie Uniacke and we're going to be discussing building a freelance translation and copywriting business. Katie is from the UK and currently lives in Granada, Spain, and has been living there as a digital nomad and freelancer for just about over a year. Hope you enjoyed this episode and head over, make sure you leave us a review and a rating on iTunes and Spotify if you liked it. It all really helps with the show. So thank you, appreciate it, and I hope you find this episode actionable and insightful. I'm very excited to bring you today's guest, Katie Uniacke. Katie, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you. Very pleased to be here.
Thank you for joining me. So, Katie, you're based over in Granada in Spain, is that correct?
Yes, I'm here in the south of Spain where spring is just about sprung. And it's a lovely place to be.
And you have a lovely English accent by the sounds of it. So you're clearly not... Did you grow up in Spain or whereabouts?
No, I grew up in the east of England, a little town in the east of England, and my family is actually now based in Cornwall, which is a beautiful part of the UK. But I moved out to Granada about a year and maybe 14 months ago.
Sweet. So you moved over to Granada and you fell in love with the city and, you decided not to leave. So when you moved over to Granada, were you working online or, what? Can you wind us back to, I guess how you got started with your online business and maybe give a high level overview of what it is that you do for your clients and what your service is?
Yeah, so I'm a translator. So I do Spanish and Portuguese into English and a copywriter. And I got started with both in the final year of university, which was, I graduated in 2016. And then I kind of stumbled into it. My cousins have a copywriting agency and they gave me some work, and I was just sitting at my laptop one day being like, wow, I can actually get paid just to sit here in my room and write words. And then I realized I could start translating as well. And then I went off to Mexico for a year where I was teaching English part-time at a university, and that was about 12 hours a week. So I had the rest of the time, which was and that was paying my bills, my rent, and obviously life out in Mexico is really cheap. So the rest of the time I could when I wasn't, I also did a lot of traveling and made the most of it. But I had a lot of time to work on building up a client base, which was brilliant. That was kind of taught me a lot about the luxury of having the time to get these things off the ground. And by the end of that, I was kind of earning enough that I was like, actually, I could make a go of this anywhere in the world. So I moved back home, moved back in with my parents for 6 months and just didn't really spend any money or do much apart from work on the business for that 6 months. And then by the time January 2018 came around, I had kind of a good, consistent income enough to be able to support myself and not have to worry, especially Granada the cost of living is very cheap. And I had some friends out here, so out I came. And it's all gone. I can't believe I've been here for a year already, but it's a great place to be freelancing.
Yeah, it looks like a beautiful city. It's not exactly by the coast, so it's not one I've ever visited, but the more people I talk to about it, they love it because it's not your typical let's say Spanish touristy resort, and it's not as mental, I guess, and not as busy as the likes of Barcelona and Valencia, which are both beautiful and cool cities. But I mean, Barcelona is fairly hectic. If you've ever been there, I'm sure you know what I mean. And Valencia apparently is a little less hectic, but it's still, a million odd people, and it's fairly big. Whereas Granada, I think, is about 300,000 people, so it's a much smaller city to live in. So, no, that's brilliant. I guess there's a couple of little points there to circle back on. So, I mean, you got to start by, a cousin who had a business, and you started working with them. And then when you started trying to build clients outside of that business, I guess, how did you go about that? Were you on the freelancer sites? Did you ask for referrals? Can you talk a little bit, I guess, how you started to grow your client base outside of, the people who you knew, let's say?
Yeah, so it was the typical Fiverr and Upwork that most freelancers seem to get their start on. And so started with Fiverr and just had little bits of work here and there, people coming to me whilst I was at university. And when I left uni, that's when I had the time and energy available to dedicate to Upwork, which obviously, as I'm sure you know, you have to really put in the hours to get your first clients and to be pitching and looking for jobs. I just started to find some clients on there, got repeat work, got some good reviews. And one of those clients who I think I'd been writing for him on, I don't know, the best pillows for side sleepers or something, equally the kind of thing that everybody does when they're cutting their teeth. And he asked me if I wanted to be the kind of virtual assistant, but editor on his, he has a few Amazon affiliate websites on various different niches. And he said 20 hours a week at, next to nothing rate an hour. But in Mexico, that was a lot of money because the daily, the average wage there is shockingly low. And the cost of living is also incredibly low.
No, 100%. I guess just when I was living over in Thailand, I would do 500 words for $10, and that was all right in Thailand because I could easily knock out 40, 50 articles a week, which is 400 or 500 quid, and my rent was like $300 for the month. So it was like, you know what I mean? It was relative, but I guess there comes a point where, like you're saying, if you move back to England or if you move to a bigger city, you have to step up your pricing and start to make, I guess, enough that you can live in in a city if you wanted to, or in one of those areas that would have a higher cost of living. So, how did you approach that with regards to Upwork and stuff? So did you get your start by doing, like you're saying, doing some lower cost work to build up your review and your profile, and then did you grow with that client, or did you then let's say increase your rate and let go of that client? How did that look?
Well, I didn't actually hang around on Upwork all that long because I had a bad experience with a client trying to pay me outside of the platform, but telling me about, asking me via the platform if I would be okay with that. And Upwork were immediately like, right, you out, because obviously they don't appreciate people that are trying to get away without paying the 20% commission, even though I hadn't actually agreed to that. But anyway, so they said, no, you're gone. So I didn't actually have a chance to start building up my rates on Upwork, really. But I already had the clients, about probably 5 or 6 clients from there that I took with me. And
no way. Sorry, just to jump in there. So Upwork kicked you for a client trying to pay you outside of the platform.
Yeah, they did.
That is ludicrous.
I know.
Absolutely mental. If anyone from Upwork is listening, shame on you. That's nuts. And you couldn't even make a case and send them screenshots? No? Oh my God, that's terrible.
No, they immediately, the first email they send you saying you're banned is basically also says, do not contact us again, because we don't want to hear from you. And I was like, oh, okay. But it was a good kick because it meant that I went from considering, the 1 cent a word, 2 cents a word jobs, and was suddenly like, actually, I have to make a serious go of this on my own. And I started looking on some for translation, I moved on to some kind of more professional translation focused forums. And I'm still on those. I pay for membership on Translators Cafe and Pros. And that's where I've found all my translation work, really. All the agencies that I work for anyway have come through those too. Yeah.
So those are reputable places where, let's say, agencies will go to hire people who have enough of an investment in their skill set that they're willing to pay to be a member, to pitch for that work. So it's kind of a different, as you say, it's a more professional arena to put yourself in to get the work. And I imagine the price you get for your work is higher. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I mean there is very low paid work on there, but you don't accept it if it's too low. If the rate isn't acceptable to you, you just let somebody else take the job. There are translators, obviously, that because I feel like I'm charging respectable rates for my translation these days, but the translators out there that charge double, triple what I charge, and a lot of them. There are some people who are just as skeptical about Translators Cafe and Prose as writers are about Upwork and Fiverr. They still see them as content mills, but for me, they've been really, really beneficial. Yeah.
And have you found aligning yourself with people who, let's say, have SEO is essentially what you were digging at there, because I guess I would be definitely involved in the world of building websites that you're trying to do affiliate stuff for, like Amazon affiliate, exactly what you're talking about there. So like best pillows for side sleeping, best coffee machine for under $100, whatever, you're writing stuff like this. So have you found that aligning yourself with people who are building those sort of sites and trying to expand into new markets, like let's say a little bit less competitive and less advanced markets outside of your typical English websites? Have you seen a rise in that? People trying to do that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I don't have any clients really that are that kind of client anymore. I still work a bit with that original client with the pillows. And he's, got various websites on the go. But other than him, I haven't really worked with Amazon affiliate sites just because, I don't know, morally, it's hard to kind of Amazon.
Fair enough. Yeah, writing about it.
And, do I want to be selling that stuff to people? A lot of it, some of it, it's been really beneficial. Like he had one website which was about what was it, travel backpacks, and he did a whole part on like sustainable materials and so I could kind of really get involved with that. But mostly I just struggle to get enthusiastic about anything I'm not actually interested in these days or don't believe in.
That's cool, and I guess that's the progression of your career. Exactly. When you start out, you'll kind of write a little bit about whatever, because you're building your profile, you're building your confidence too, and your belief in yourself and what your capabilities are, and then you're like, oh, okay, I don't really need to do those articles about that stuff I don't believe in. So you can be a little bit more selective with your work. So that's a good place to be. And I guess, so outside of those arenas, like, the places that you're mentioned there where you could pitch for the work, have you found social media helpful for growing your business?
Yeah, specifically for the writing side, the copywriting side, like connecting with direct clients through Facebook groups. I'm not very good at taking like an active part in professional Facebook groups, but like I kind of know I've got a few contacts who do, and then they tag me in things, which I really appreciate. So I got a few jobs through that, and things like I work with a couple of freelance translators whose first language isn't English. So I'm perfect for them because my knowledge of the translation industry teamed with my copywriting skills means that I can create really good copy for their website or their newsletter, or check because obviously they speak English very well, but they just need someone to like double check their content or blog posts they've written. So that's been really beneficial. And Twitter is great as well for building community, especially it's very strong around content writing, copywriting, especially in the UK. There's a big, kind of seems like a very strong Twitter community. And people are very supportive and encouraging. Twitter I've found to be really, really beneficial in the last year, especially.
Brilliant. And I guess you hit a real good one on the head there, which is, if other people are tagging you and stuff, and you tend to see that in these Facebook groups. If people know, you're a writer or you're a translator, and often people see things and they just know, and that's brilliant because you're turning other people into your salespeople, even inadvertently, like you're saying, they're your friends, but they know what you do. And they'll tag you, and then that other person might reach out to you directly, and therefore you're generating work. But it's brilliant that you have people who'll do that for you, so that's awesome.
It is good because I don't know about you, but these days I don't really use Facebook personally anymore. So I just don't really go on it. So I do just wait for those notifications to come through saying you've been tagged. And I know I should, because the professional groups are very good places to find work, but you can't do everything. So
I totally agree. And I mean, I swear I've often said this, like I would delete Facebook altogether if it wasn't for Facebook groups. Because I mean, I'm in a couple of groups, especially around SEO. I'm doing the Authority Hacker, it's called authorityhacker.com. I'm doing their course, which is around building authority websites. And I'm in that group and a couple of podcasting ones. And honestly, I mean, I get most of my podcast guests through Facebook groups, you included. It's but genuinely, it's where I like go into all these different groups around digital nomads, entrepreneurs and writers and whatever. And I just ask, who wants to come on? Because at the end of the day, it's about me sharing other people's journeys and stories. It's not about me hammering on about what I do, so that's, but I found it beneficial for that. But like, I don't sit there and scroll through my Facebook feed like you would a couple of years ago. That ship has sailed.
The amount of time I used to spend on Facebook, if I had those hours back, the amount of work I could do.
Yeah, well, I guess I've really tried to, take the analogy of be the creator, not the consumer, and really try and just try and be, I guess, podcasts included, and, trying to build websites and just trying to put stuff out there, put content out there instead of constantly consuming, because you can get stuck in, comparison analysis, and you can get paralysis analysis, and, you can be looking at other people and going, Jesus, how are they doing that? Or how could they have all their stuff? And you can get a little bit frustrated by it and demotivated. And also, you can take on too much content too, where you're like, oh my God, I don't know where to start. There's all these different things I should be doing. And you're like, it can almost paralyze you with like indecision when, really what to focus on is the next best thing that can move your business. You shouldn't really, as hard as it is, try and just focus on that thing.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I've had a period of that recently, I think, of content paralysis, because so many people are putting out so much wonderful stuff, and I'm just there like, so, because I do have a blog on my website, but it is neglected, I have to admit, and I've got all these ideas for it, but it's just a matter of actually being like, right, starting with this next. And also, I think a problem that a lot of freelancers have, and some seem to overcome it more easily than others, is I have all this paid work to do, and that I have enough of that to fill all my time. So how am I supposed to carve some time out of my day to dedicate to something that someone's not actually going to pay me for, next month, as opposed to it's going to be something that's going to be beneficial for me in the future, creating content of my own. But that's something that I'm trying to work on at the moment, but sometimes consuming too much content can, as you've said, just be a bit paralyzing. So
I'm 100% on board with what you're saying. I mean, that's probably one of the main reasons I eventually started this podcast, was because I wanted to put out content, wanted to create it. I mean, I have a full-time job. I run my own online businesses, and it's like, I just don't have time to be putting out in-depth articles. It's either I'm going to outsource it or I'm going to do it, and I just don't have the time. But I love talking about online business, and I love having conversations with people. And so that's why, for me, the natural transition was to, I guess, move towards the medium I'm more comfortable with, which is, podcasting. I'll push into video a little bit as I get more confident with it. Like everybody, I'm a little bit weird about being on video, but I mean, whatever, just putting it out there, because, it's quick. You can put out a 3-5 minute video. I mean, these podcasts are typically 30-40 minutes. I mean, it's not it would take me longer than that to write a really in-depth article about something along these topics, so I guess finding the medium that you can you find easiest and most comfortable, or else you're stuck in that balance that you're talking about. I mean, so many, I often even see web designers like, yeah, I'm a web designer, but don't mind my website. That's pretty bad advertising.
It
It's
is.
like, but you often, like you're saying, that you're focusing on the paid work, which is what pays the bills and, funds your lifestyle. And you can often let your own stuff slip, which, I mean, almost every freelancer I've talked to runs that battle. And eventually at some point they're like, right, I have to fix this. And they jump in and at least, put some effort into it. So, I guess so. So, can we just ask? Can I just ask you a little bit about along your journey and along the way into working as a translator and as a copywriter? Did you pay for mentorship or any courses or coaching along the way that you can say helped you on your path, or maybe didn't help you? Was there anything that you did?
No, I haven't. I'm actually kind of getting to that stage now, I think, where I'm looking around and thinking how to get to the next level, because I've kind of reached a stage where I've got a fairly regular income, and I feel like I've kind of cracked everything that I'm doing at the moment. Like, I'm doing it well, but with the whole side of like marketing my business, and that's where there's room for improvement. So yeah, I'm kind of getting to that stage now where I'm looking around at all the courses on the internet and for potential mentors and thinking where I'm going to go from here. So I'm definitely putting aside, earmarking some money this year to go towards that. But obviously, again, there's just so much out there that it's kind of hard to figure out exactly what to invest your money in. Like, everybody's producing amazing courses and amazing content, and there's so many amazing mentors out there. So it's like, who do I choose?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I mean, I made my decision this year to finally stop going all over the place and stick with one. And like I mentioned, I'm doing the Authority Hacker course because I'm just interested in this model of, I love SEO. I've been into it for years. Can I build websites, get them ranking, get them making money and sell them? For me, that's a business model I find interesting. You know what I mean? They call it flipping websites or whatever. So I'm just going to do their course, no other courses. Nobody else's, everybody else. Get out of my ears. So if it's not around that, or obviously with podcasting, there's an element of, the online business community that you kind of have to be somewhat involved in, I guess. But I really try not to, like you're saying, do loads of courses, because I'm guilty of that in the past, like shiny object syndrome, oh, this looks like I'll do this now. And I do that for a couple of months and then the next thing comes out. And often that's because things can get mundane and boring. Like, even when you're building like a website that's focused on SEO, like honestly, if you're doing the work yourself, like doing link building is boring. Writing loads of content about things you're not necessarily passionate about, like coffee machines or pillows, can wear on you, and the enthusiasm can wane eventually, where you're like, oh Jesus, and maybe it's not producing a return at the beginning, which it's not going to be producing a return. So you kind of get caught in that scenario of, it becomes the boring and the mundane, and it's not exciting. And then somebody comes along with, you can do this with copywriting and make XX if you use ClickFunnels or something. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, okay, this sounds interesting. I could do this. Off you go down a rabbit hole for 3 months learning ClickFunnels. So, well, that's what I'm guilty of. I'm not saying you are.
No, definitely. It's always shiny objects. I think generally millennials or people kind of that have grown up in the internet age, we're all just, we don't have an attention span. So yeah, committing to something.
I guess we're all rewiring our brains with the phones in our pockets.
Exactly.
And it makes it more difficult to consume and to do deep work as well. Which is a book I read recently, which was really thought provoking, I guess, for lack of a better word. So, had you any books along, that you would read yourself that you found important for your business?
I recently read Confessions of a Misfit Entrepreneur by Kate Toon, who's a very successful Australian copywriter and has a SEO course, which is one of the things that I'm thinking of taking this year, just to boost those skills a little further. And she's great because obviously she's absolutely smashing it in the copywriting world, but she does just work from a shed in her garden in her pajamas, and she doesn't lie about that. She's very honest about how she does it and her ups and downs. And so it's the whole misfit entrepreneur thing, that she's not the one in Bali with the laptop precariously balanced next to a pool, pretending that she just does 2 hours of work a day and then the rest of it's just passive income. She does do the passive income model, but she's also like, it does take quite a lot of maintenance as well. So that was a really good book, and one I recommend for anyone who feels like they're not the killer entrepreneur that's going to be able to be generating 6 figures within 2 months.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure it out for years. Yeah. Still haven't cracked it. So it's not, but I guess what Kate Toon was it? You said Kate Toon. So I'll make sure to link to that in the show notes. But I guess what she's doing, by the sounds of it, is being her authentic self, which is not always the norm, I guess, online, and that's maybe why you can relate to her, and that's why you like to follow her, and you trust her course or advice to help you, because she's not being fake. It's real. It's this is how I really am. This is how my business runs. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it sucks, but she's being real.
Yes, exactly, and that's her charm. And I think an awful lot of people were just getting a bit fed up with everybody putting on a facade all the time. And it's refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I quite like screwed9to5.com, Jill and Josh. They're really cool. And they do. Jill is super like that too, you know what I mean? Like, and they just had a kid and everything. And now, to be fair, they are traveling around Bali and stuff. But I mean, that's their buzz. But they're taking the kid and all with them. Which
is great. I love Bali.
But I guess but she's always been super upfront about this and about burnout and about comparing yourselves to other people. And like, I met them when I was living in Thailand. They were super nice, you know what I mean? We were all living in the same apartments, but like just being authentic, and there's another one, Alex Beeden. She's really good too. She lives in Trinidad and Tobago, but she's another person who's very, very authentic, and because she's very authentic, people warm to her. And I mean, even I follow her stuff, even though it's all glitz, glam, girly boss, but I follow her because her content's good. She's clever, but she's also a photographer, so her photography is amazing, and her graphics are ridiculous. It's like, how do you do that? But yeah, she was a photographer and she lives in a class place called, so it's easy to make your website and your Instagram look sweet if you're a photographer living in Trinidad and Tobago. Cool. So, Katie, can we kind of just, I guess, get your insight into, if you were back at the start and, if you were listening to this and you were like, oh my God, I'm you in college, or, I'm in college, or even I'm just sick of what I'm doing and I'd love to maybe, head over to Spain and, do my freelance business. What tips would you have for those who are maybe getting started? If you were back at square one, you had no clients, no sales, based on all the experiences you've had, what would you say to somebody in that position?
I'd say that you need to carve yourself out the time to be able to dedicate to it. Like when I went to Mexico, I was very lucky in that I had the luxury of only a 12-hour week of work was supporting me. That was all my bills and expenses. So finding a way to be able to finance your surviving, and then, but with having those hours available to you every week that you can just dedicate to just plugging away, keeping working, going out, because at the beginning it's just finding the clients is what takes the time, and treating that almost as a full-time, part-time job, as a client search. If you're a translator, just contacting as many agencies as you can. On Pros, the website I was talking about earlier, there's a really useful thing called the Blue Board, which is basically a list of all the translation agencies in the world, and they all have translators rate them. So you go on there, you look for agencies that work with your language pairs and maybe the subject fields that you'd like to get into, and then just make your job or your part-time job, because you'll have to be doing something else to make your money, sending out 10 emails a day, 20 emails a day, whatever you can to all those agencies, and just be prepared to put the time into it and treat that as your job until the actual work starts coming along.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, even when if you're just doing writing and not translation, hitting up SEO agencies was a really powerful way. I mean, we spoke about that in episode 1 with Carlo, and he was, that's what they did. They basically just like went on Upwork, hired somebody to do research, get me every agency in the UK, and then emailed them and then called them, be like, hey, did you get my email? No, hey, we do freelance writing. Oh, okay. Gives over a sample. Boom. Yeah, okay, here you go. Here's some articles. And they're like, all those agencies, I mean, almost every agency outsources their content, like no jokes. I mean, and it's very few have in-house writers. And if you're looking at countries like the UK, and even in the United States, pushing into that $10, $15 as a starter, you can get those rates, no problem. But you might have to write about all sorts of things. But yeah, that's like, those are people to target. In my, I guess, just from my own knowledge as well, if you're listening to this and you're wondering like, how can we do it? So Katie, you give a brilliant option for translators, for freelance writers, because outside, I mean, I look at Upwork. I'm having wild trouble with Upwork lately. I had 2 people let me down recently who had been consistently good, and now I'm like, oh, am I back at this stage? Am I got to find new people again? And I'm inviting people and nobody's coming on board, and then people come on board and they have too much work on already. It's like, it drives me nuts sometimes.
It's hard on both sides of the coin. Yeah.
And it takes 20% on the poor writer. That's not fair. Or on the freelancer. I mean, that's a serious chunk. Somebody's got to beat that. It's not very fair, is it?
No, not at all.
So, no, that's awesome. And so, Katie, where can people find you if they wanted to reach out to you to connect to, maybe talk about your services?
So my website is katieuniac.com. For the spelling, just check the podcast title because it's an interesting surname. And Twitter also katieuniac. Absolutely, DMs are open. Love to chat to anyone. And if anybody is passing through Granada and would like to meet up and have a chat, I'm always love to meet new people and people that are doing interesting, fun things.
Katie, thank you very much. You have an awesome story and I wish you every success with your business moving forward.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Digital Nomad Cafe podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you found it actionable and inspiring, please be sure to give us a rating on iTunes and share it on your social media profiles. Tag us on Instagram. Get the word out there, share it in any Facebook groups that you're in where people might be freelancers, remote employees, online entrepreneurs, anywhere that you feel and anyone that you feel could benefit from learning from today's insights and the story and the journey of this entrepreneur who was on today's podcast. Please help get the word out there. And, every rating helps, every new listener helps. And all we're trying to do here is to inspire people and, share stories to show that it is possible to create that digital nomad lifestyle. And also just, the real nitty-gritty of what it actually takes to build an online business, whether that be as a freelancer or as an online business owner.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Nomad Cafe podcast. Head over to the website to access the resources and links mentioned in today's episode at digitalnomadcafe.com.